Ian Jones, thank you once again for joining me at Insight Acquisitions. Happy to start wherever you want, but I was doing a little bit digging on your LinkedIn profile and I came across your work with Hugel and Holly, if I'm saying that correctly. And that interests me because it says, one, they're a franchise. I couldn't quite figure that out because I'd never actually heard of them. And they've got quite an interesting story in terms of, if I've got this right anyway, listing and then delisting and then going out and acquiring a huge amount of, I guess, shops or stores or whatever you want to call it in 2000. So do you want to start there? Do you just want to walk me through what you were doing with those guys and what their story was?
Actually, that's ancient history, and to be honest, it was a really fun story when actually it was called Hugel and Hoyle. Actually, it was a water technologies company that started in Western Australia. You know, the different iterations, different ownership. To be honest, it's quite a complex sort of story to go through, but one thing I'll never forget is there was this company. I was a young kid straight out of school, and I heard that they were doing some pretty interesting things. So I found out who the owner of the company was, knocked on his door and said, look, I'd like to work with you, learn what I can. And, he said, okay, done. You can spend the next couple of weeks working for me and
That's cool.
Do what you do and learn what you can. After a couple of weeks, he offered me a check and said, thanks. And I said, look, I didn't start for the money. I just wanted some experience. And I think he kind of respected that. And he took me under his wing. I worked with him for 11 years and I went from, retail shop front floor to, national franchise and business development manager where we were acquiring companies. I really started to cut my teeth in the M&A side of things over there. And ultimately, the company, we took it public. We had a lot of fun. I was acquiring companies all around the country for the business, and they're no longer around. It was, I think a quarter of a century ago now, 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
But it was a fun journey.
I bet it sounds like it. So why franchising? If they were just going out acquiring businesses, why franchise it?
Look, it was, I was young. I think they had several plans and they recognized that, to be honest, franchising is really great. If you've got fantastic systems and structures and all of those things, franchising is really, really powerful. They had a really unique model in that they had a mix of company-owned stores, they had franchise stores, they had wholesale businesses that integrated in through the entire. It was a really interesting model. Like I said, they're a water technologies business that really played a significant role in so many different sectors within that space. And they were quite, ahead of their time. I think industries sort of evolve, and I think it's been probably over 25 years since they were kind of around like they were, I guess. But it was definitely a great learning experience for me, having, I guess, cut my teeth in the M&A space, which has been such a significant part of my life. Sorry?
There's a lot there, going out and acquiring a whole bunch of companies, listing, delisting, the fast growth that comes with that, managing franchisees and franchise agreements, disclosure documents, all that sort of stuff. There's a lot there. That's why I was so interested in
acquiring sites, bringing in the right partners. Yeah. From the finding the right, to be honest, there's a million different businesses and they service different people and they have in different sectors, they have different margins and widgets that they sell and all of those sorts of things. So whilst every model in business is a little bit different, I think the thing that it always distills or boils down to for me is it's always about people. And when you find out what's important to a person, whether that be a client, a partner, whatever it is, you're able to meet their needs and deliver a product, a service, or a model that actually really delivers for them. And, I think in the franchise space, you've got every franchisee that comes on board has a dream, they have a vision, they've got a purpose and a reason for moving forward with that brand. And I think brand values and having, real alignment as to what you're trying to achieve so that when a franchisor and the people and the partners coming on board, if they're all working to the same end, it can be a really magical thing. I know that not every system is a winner, and not every system suits every other, person or people coming in. And I think, but making sure you're aligned on the values side of things and with what your plans are aligns with theirs, I think is a really important place to start.
Yeah, that's a challenge of franchising, isn't it? I mean, you've got that key person in each franchise store, I guess, if you want to call it that, in most cases they've put in, their house, they got money on the line, they're completely emotionally invested in it. It's their business as well. And it's trying to make sure that both of the values of the franchisor and the franchisee are aligned so both can, make it a success. And yeah, that for sure is a challenge, but it's certainly in my experience anyway, it's a good way to grow because you've got someone who's completely invested in that business to make it work, being the franchisee, and obviously the franchisor is no different. So yeah, interesting story, that one. They're no longer around, is that what you said?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, probably 25 years ago, I think, things shifted in the business and the like. So as far as I'm aware, I don't think they've been around for a very long time.
A little while.
I guess.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, absolutely. But, to be honest, they played a significant role in that market for a period of time. And I think, most people within that sector of space had some sort of dealings or touched on or was part of that in some way. It was an exciting season in my early working career, I guess. And I had a lot of fun in that space as well. Literally,
can imagine.
I think there was one period where where did that lead? Look, it was
Where did that
interesting.
take you to after that?
Well, look, I've worked in so many different, areas, I guess, but what that did is it kind of sparked something in me that is, I guess, look, in some respects, it's easy to get into business. The hard part's staying there and making a quid out of it. And I realized at that point that people, it really is, right? And I think there's a lot of people that have dreams and aspirations and they don't really know about how to go about it. So starting their own company or doing their own business, looking for something that's a really good fit. And that's always been a strength of mine, being able to recognize that person with this opportunity is really a match made in heaven. And I really leaned into that, and I love helping people find an opportunity, but likewise on the other side as well. I will tell people, and it's a common phrase of mine, always start with the end in mind. So one thing that a lot of people don't do is they don't spend a lot of time designing or planning what their career pathway or ultimate business goal might actually look like. I like being well considered, think through where would I like to be in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and really start working back from there. Recognizing that technology and goals and aspirations and where you're at, and people that go through different seasons, and being nimble and flexible enough to change, because what I wanted 15 years ago is not necessarily what I want now. Fortunate that I've got a wonderful family, live on a really great property. My wife and daughter love horses. But my passion has always been about people. Like, if people say, hey, what do you get excited about? And what's your passion or mission or whatever it is? To be honest, it's fairly simple. It's to provide hope, help, and opportunities that transform and enrich people's lives. Like, that's Ian Jones at the core. And I'm really excited about being able to deliver on that. And the one area that I think I'm really good at being able to help people is when it's time to actually sell your business. Now, I used to be a business broker and was for many years, and now I've actually, business sales, we now work with over 350 business brokers around the country, and I love that, we have billions of dollars worth of businesses on our platform, and we have some of the best business brokers in the country. And between the technology that we build and the professionals that work on the platform, we're literally helping tens of thousands. I think at last count, we had over 80,000 buyers and sellers actually engaging through the platform, people actually going, look, this is an opportunity, I want to step into something. And there's, 2.5 million small business owners in Australia, and a lot of them are coming to a time where they said, look, that was a season, it was great, but now it's time for me to make a change. And for me or our team or our platform or the professionals that engage in our platform to be able to help business owners when it's time for them to move on so that they can actually step into what's next for them is really special. Giving the next opportunity to the next season and generation of business owner. Yeah.
100%. Yeah. I want to double click on that one, but I want to kind of go back a little bit first of all, and we'll jump back into business sales because that is interesting. But when you first got into business broking, what was your expectations, and then what was the first year like? Is it what you thought it was going to be, and did you think, oh well, businesses will sell when they go on the market, and there's plenty of sellers out there, and they're prepared, and all that kind of stuff? Or was it a different sort of journey? What was the first year like?
The first year for anybody stepping into becoming, a business broker, it's hard. I think there's usually, most businesses would take anywhere from 3, 6 up to 12 months to sell. You're kind of building your own network, your community, and all of those sorts of things. And the problem is as well, like to date, there's always been, haven't been a lot of purpose-built tools to actually help brokers do it as well. And so people are using rebadged real estate this and rebadged this and all of these sorts of things. And it was quite a clunky kind of thing, which kind of instilled a little bit of a passion for me to actually build, I guess, for brokers what I wish I had available for me when I was a broker. But I think that my first year, I went about building a network. People that I knew would get value out of the services that I could provide, and give them comfort and confidence that if they had a client, like if it was an accountant or a bookkeeper or somebody that said, hey, I've got a client that's actually thinking of selling, I wanted them to know that they could talk to me and I would have their back. One of the biggest things, though, is confidentiality matters. It matters on so many different levels and for so many different reasons. And giving them comfort that we could have a quiet, a confidential conversation where we can talk through everything, like the reasons, the issues, the challenges, the why now kind of conversations, and do it in a safe space. And when you take that time to really understand, there are some people that, they were just going through stresses. They couldn't find staff. There were a lot of reasons why people were moving forward and say, hey, I actually need to sell. Whereas if you take the time to understand what was actually in their best interest and be able to guide them about, if you spend another year or two in the business, you can actually facilitate and, some changes that might add some extra value. So many people, when it's time, and they don't necessarily have time to make all of the improvements in the business that could ultimately add some extra value. But the reality is, a professional broker, there's a lot of things that I know that I could do and that professional brokers can do to add value to the transaction and help them finish well. Like, finish with pride, finish proud, finish well. And, often for, hardworking business owners, this will play, this will be their superannuation. This will allow them to retire well. And, to be honest, if you've been in business for a while, you deserve to finish well.
Yeah, I agree. And it does take a little bit of preparation, that's for sure, when you go to the market. I know from my own experience, and something you mentioned just before, is that start with the end in mind. And when I first bought it, I literally wrote a number on the paper and said, once it's worth this is when I'll sell it. And I thought, it should take me about 5 years to get there. And I got there in 4. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm here now. So it was like, well, what do I do? Can I scale this thing up? Evidently, the answer to that question was no. So I sold it. And I sold it for that number, which was just interesting, kind of reflecting back on it and thinking about, starting with the end in mind. It wasn't necessarily a hard and fast thing, but it was like, have an idea, have some sort of thought. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
When you're acquiring a business or starting a business, have some sort of idea of, it is an asset. Treat it like such. It's worth something. There is value there. So, when you get to a point, it's like, well, I've got this business to a point. It's operating really well. It's got great systems. It's got good people. It's worth X amount of dollars.
Yeah, and I think when I look back and reflect on the people that I've worked with and helped over the years, I think through, this is something I remember, I think my dad told me this, when I was, knee-high to a grasshopper. I was quite young. And actually, I think I was just starting in the workforce, actually. And he said, you can work for a company and be a great, diligent employee, but whether you're there for 2 years or 22 years, you can never sell your job. If you buy a business, it doesn't have to be the biggest business or the best business. And by the way, there's no such thing as the perfect business. It's just the business that's been made to kind of fit around your lifestyle, and sometimes that feels perfect when you get there. But once you've actually done that, then you can add some real value and create something that works around your life, that can kind of direct you down the path that you really want. I think being flexible as well, and there's a lot of hardworking business owners that will say, but it's just me, or it's just me and my wife or my family or whatever it might be that work in this. Is it worth anything? Will it sell? Will anybody want to buy this? Because you're kind of just buying a job. Well, the reality is, there's this one particular business owner, I'll never forget this. And I love accountants because they're brilliant and everybody needs a good one. But this particular accountant said, you know what, I'm sorry, it's just you in the business. It was a commercial cleaning business. It's not worth anything because you've got no contracts, you've got none of this, you've got all of these other things. And as soon as you leave, you've got nothing. And I had a different take on things because I know that a lot of commercial cleaning businesses don't have contracts. People don't use you because they're contracted to. They use you because they need you the service and they like the way you deliver it.
Do a good job.
And if you put the work and effort into allowing a really great transition, you can actually translate and transition the value that business has to the new owner. And we helped them sell for, I think it was about a little over $300,000. And what thought they had to do was walk away with nothing. And the reality is, most businesses do have a value. And not all businesses are worth 30 million, but there's a lot that might be worth 100,000 or 300,000 or 500,000 or 1 million or whatever the number is. But the reality is, you need to be able to look and understand that who's that going to be valuable to? How do you go about transitioning the full value from one owner to the next? And when you get that right, that's where the magic happens. And I think people I think too often people make a mistake, and it's a big one. They go, I know who the owner is, and they go, I'm going to reach out to them. Well, honestly, it's not rocket science to work out who the logical buyer is for nearly any business. It's usually one of 5 categories: a customer, a competitor, a supplier, a staff member, or a strategic acquisition. In about 15 minutes on a whiteboard, we can write who the logical buyers will be for just about any business, right? It's not complicated stuff. But they're also the same people you don't want to know that you're on the market. So how do you go about selling to the right people without actually approach them? And that's where having a confidential selling campaign is absolutely crucial. Business brokers do that really well. And our platform, because confidentiality is at fundamental and at their core, allows people to do that, sell their business, for business brokers to sell these businesses without actually disclosing that they're on the market. And it's transformational. Yeah. And just managing confidentiality really well can facilitate so much extra value in the sale. Can you imagine if a buyer goes, I'm really interested in this business, regardless of which one it is, and they go, hang on, how long's it been on the market? Okay, it's been on for a little while. Who's had a look at it? All of your competitors have had a look at this information. They know about your staff. They know about your customers. They know about all of these things. Every time that you disclose information to the market about your business, you're kind of devaluing it for whoever buys it eventually. So managing that is really important, and most people don't really grasp that. So I think having that well-considered process, having the purpose-built technology and tools to manage that really well is a total game changer for professional brokers, business owners, but of course for buyers as well.
Yeah, that's interesting because, when you're talking about those 5 categories of people that will buy the business, I dare say there's a 6th category, and they may not also be or always be the buyer of the business, but just a general public, someone that might be in a corporate role or has been made redundant or is looking to buy their first business, whatever that may be. How do you manage the confidentiality process with them? Because I'd imagine that in terms of a hit rate, it'd be pretty low, but am I right in saying that would be, if you were just to put a listing up on, whatever platform, I guess it doesn't really matter for now.
I'd say one called Business Sales, yep.
Yeah. What the top one in the industry, businesssales.com.au. And let's say you get lots of inquiries come through from people that are just looking to buy a business. They haven't really thought about industry, all that sort of stuff. Like, how do you manage that? Because they're not exactly a competitor in that sense that, they could go out. I guess they could go out and start a business. But how do you manage that? Is it a selection process that you would go through and ask a couple of key questions and say, well, hey, what is it you're looking for? What does your finance look like? What is your equity position? What's your experience, etc., before you start releasing information to them? Like, what does that process look like?
Yeah. Well, firstly, if you're doing the process right, you don't just email information to anybody, right? You want to make sure you've always got the ability to recall information, and using a purpose-built data room is really important. So we build that right into the system and the platform. As a seller, you always want to be able to control who sees your commercial and private information and when. Now, a typical process would be starting all the way back. You don't go advertising ABC, bakery, if that's the business itself. You never advertise, or very rarely. There might be a few exceptions, and I take it in mind. I take it on board that there are legitimate reasons why sometimes you do want to be loud and proud with the name, but that is by far and away the exception. 99 times out of 100, confidentiality is crucial. So you don't go advertising the business. You advertise the heck out of the opportunity that business represents.
Yeah.
And you don't say it's in this suburb. You say, hey, there's an opportunity in this broader region that represents, it has maybe a dozen staff, or it's got this, it services this market. It could be any business. But you talk to the attributes of the business. Roughly how profitable it is, the kind of turnover, the industry it might operate in. But you don't go putting in the unique information that's going to make it easily identifiable by your competitors, your staff, or whatnot. So somebody will inquire. And the first thing you do is you make somebody sign a confidentiality deed. Because once you've done that, you've actually protected yourself, your business, your staff from the confidential information and even the discussions that you have with that party. But the other thing as well is you just don't release information until you know a little bit about them. So what we require, our platform facilitates and manages really well for the sellers, is that they don't just sign a confidentiality deed, but they provide you a detailed buyer profile. They tell you who they are, their skills, their experience, what they're doing now, how they're going to fund the opportunity, and importantly, what interests them in that particular opportunity. And so once they've done that, then the seller has enough information that they can decide, are they going to release information? Or, are they could use the confidential live chat, they could email them, they could call them, they could do whatever they are comfortable with or think makes sense for them to be able to progress progress selling process with that particular party. And if they feel comfortable enough to say, hey, they're a good fit, they literally just press a single button that allows that party to view the information via that secure watermark protected data room. And you'd be surprised that having a diligent process allows people to move forward with confidence.
100%. And I think that's also helpful for the sellers, because you don't know what you don't know, especially if it's your first business that you're buying. like it can be helpful to say, well, let's narrow it down to where your experience is. Let's have a look at, your capital position. Let's have a look at, what industries that you're interested in, or is it location based? Let's have a look at what locations that you're interested in buying in. Like all that stuff can be helpful to sellers as well, to move them along to get to what their outcome is as well. Like they want to buy a business, which is helpful. And, one industry that doesn't really exist in Australia. Like there's no real help out there for people looking to buy a business. There's no such thing as a buyer's agent for people that are looking to buy. Not at scale anyway, as far as I can know. So it's interesting that you mentioned that, because I think that's super helpful to, point sellers in the right direction and move them along, rather than they get stuck in that sort of doom loop of continually looking and, just not getting anywhere really.
Yeah, and I think for buyers, the one piece of advice that I'd always give to buyers is make a list of your negotiables and your non-negotiables. Your non-negotiables, well, your negotiables might be, I want something Monday to Friday, but hey, if it happens to be on a Saturday as well, that's fine. It might be I'm happy for a business that might be operate an hour away from where I actually live. It might be, I'm agnostic about the industry it operates in. But your non-negotiables might be, I do not want a business that operates on the weekend, or I do not want a business that is just me. I want at least 5 staff so I can take a holiday every now and then and do that, or whatever. Once you've got your list of negotiables and non-negotiables, then you can start to overlay that with the businesses that you come across. Does that broadly look like it'll fit in this category or the next one? So you're moving forward in a way and with businesses that are more likely to fit in with what you're trying to achieve. Profits is one thing, budgets is another, but there's a million other moving parts that can help decide whether it's a good fit or not a good fit for you as well.
Yeah, 100%. And they've got to have some sort of risk appetite as well, because nothing is perfect. There is no such thing as a perfect business at some point. If it ticks most of those boxes for you, you got to make that leap. You got to take the jump. And that's the reward of it, I guess,
exactly
when you're owning your own business, isn't it?
Yeah, but the thing is as well,
cool. All right.
buying a business that's already operating does actually take a lot of the risk out, and because there is some sort of track record
100%.
and of it actually working and having, customers and income and all of those sorts of things. But I think rather than trying to make it a perfect business or looking for that one, just make it look like, spend your time trying to find a business that you can fit in and add some value to. And rather than changing it right away, just make it fit into your world and then take it where you want to. The wonderful thing about business is it's really flexible, and you can make the changes that you want over time to make it perfect for you.
Yeah, 100%. As someone who's started 5 or 6 businesses from scratch and would have been better off just lighting my money on fire and watching it burn, I feel that comment in my soul far out. I really do. All right, let's touch on businesssales.com.au, because by all accounts, the business that you founded, Merchant, was and still is the dominant player in Newcastle and surrounds, if I've got that right. But what was the gap in the market, and why found businesssales.com.au when you've got quite a successful business by all accounts?
Yeah, look, it's interesting. The reason I sort of got into being a broker in the first place was because I like helping people, and I actually had a talent for being able to help, business owners and buyers get deals done that actually worked for them. So I always loved that. It was a wonderful fit. But the industry was broken. Like there was no, most of the tools that professional business brokers used were rebadged this or rebadged things, particularly from the real estate world. And, every business broker that I spoke to, I was president of the Australian Institute of Business Brokers for a number of years, and every broker that I spoke with, they were all complaining to me about the same problems. This doesn't work, having to use this, they can't get the industries right. I want to have, everybody knew what they kind of wanted or needed, but because it's such a small niche, nobody actually went about building what professional brokers wanted and needed to run a more efficient and profitable brokerage. And ultimately, what I wanted to do was provide the tools and technology and the systems and the marketing reach that made it really easy for professionals to be able to help more hardworking business owners, because quite frankly, they deserve all the help that they can get, to finish well. And so I was really passionate and really committed, I guess, to building what I wish somebody had built for me when I was a business broker. So myself, my business partner, Kieran J, we started this business from scratch. And now instead of being a business broker helping maybe 10, 20 sort of business owners at a time, we're now looking after, supporting and empowering over 350 business brokers around the country. I think we've got getting close to around the 10,000 businesses that are online and on the market right now. We're looking after and supporting and empowering, I think it's about 80,000 detailed, qualified, more genuine buyers that are looking for their right next opportunity for them. And so for people, we know that with better data and the right tools, you can make better matches and faster sales. So as a result, we're helping professionals to sell more businesses faster. They're making more money, helping more people. And quite frankly, for me, the money's great, but helping people, I love that. And the fact that we can do that at scale is amazing. And every broker has great ideas. Nobody's got a monopoly on wonderful ideas. And this is literally built by brokers for brokers. So every broker that comes on board goes, I wish it could do this. What do you reckon? I go, that's a great idea, and we'll just do it because we own the platform. We built it from scratch. It's built and designed to be fully flexible and to meet the needs of the market. We just do it. And we get to work with some wonderful people. Most of the brokers that are on the platform are personal friends of mine that I've known for a very long time. And we get to do it with them and for them. And it's wonderful.
That's really interesting, isn't it? And I think the data processing is the key, because if you look at some of the other players in the online business for sale space in terms of literally just generating inquiries, I mean, it's almost treated like a real estate listing where it's, here's the listing for the business. Someone wants to inquire, they put their details through, and then bang, it's over to you to manage it from there. Like there's really not a lot of, well, what are you interested in? What does your financial position look like? What sort of businesses are you looking to buy? What's a location? And then having like a data room, for example, like I've experienced that from the buy side of it. Having a data room is so much simpler from a buyer's perspective as well. You're not being drip-fed emails with attachments and bits, and you're like, oh, where did that P&L go? Was it on this email? Was it on that one? It's all in a data room. You can come back to it on an ongoing basis, and just all those little things there about connecting the dots. You're right. We'll translate into a life-changing event, and I can say that from my own personal perspective, like literally from a money perspective, and then from a time perspective, changed my life selling a business. But just like it's, when you think about it from other people's point of view, like it's a hard thing to do and it's a stressful bloody process. So making that a little bit easier for both sides is, it's got to be a good thing for sure.
Yeah, and I think, whilst buyers love having the information in that one place so it's easy to see and access, it also gives a lot of comfort to the business owner, because there's nothing more concerning, I guess, when a broker or somebody is emailing that information about their business to somebody, because you can't control what's done with it afterwards. Are they emailing it to other people? Are they storing it on servers or computers without security? Like, this is really fundamental stuff. You should nobody should ever be emailing confidential information anywhere. You want to have that locked down and secure. You want to know who's looking at it, when they're looking at it, why they're looking at it, and be able to press a button and stop them having access if that's something that's required for any reason. If they go, no, I love the business, can't get the money, mate, you want to lock that down, because that is fundamental. It can have a huge impact on your business, but also for the future owner when somebody buys it. Like, you don't want that business information just floating around about your staff, your profitability, the suppliers that you're using. That market intelligence is really crucial. And so, that's all olden days stuff. And anybody that's emailing that sort of information out, there's a better way. I can help you with that one. Every day we're upgrading, systems and technology for professionals so that they're using the best tools, because purpose-built tools for business brokers and business owners, anybody that's looking to buy or sell a business, the real estate market is different. Like, you don't care if it's a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom home. Who cares if people know that, right? And they will say, hey, it's from this address. That people don't care. Like, the house is the house. But when you're selling a business, the intricacies and the people you're servicing, the way you go about it and you get paid and all of those things, that really matters.
Yeah, I agree. So given that you guys have done quite a bit in the last 2 years or however long it's been, business sales life, what's next? Where's the industry going next? What are you guys chasing? Where do you want to be? What does the next 2 to 3 years look like for businesssales.com.au?
Yeah, we're really passionate about helping more hardworking business owners. And we know that when it comes to selling businesses, nobody does that better than a business broker. So our goal, we want to deal with every single professional business broker and give them the very best tools and technology so they can go about helping more business owners. And when it's time to sell, the important thing is, sell them more quickly. You want to sell more businesses faster, but ultimately you want to look after the business owner so that they get, the best possible outcome, the highest and best possible price, the best terms. They want to have all of their information securely looked after and protected. And for business, for the next generation of hardworking business owner, we need to give them a great experience so there's transparency and comfort and confidence that they can move in and actually be, pass the baton to the next generation. And we want to help people with really great transitions. And we know that having purpose-built tools, the right technology, and really great processes and systems in place can facilitate that. And when I was a business broker, that just wasn't there. To be honest, it's still not there outside of what we're delivering. And business buyers, business owners, and business brokers, they deserve better. And our goal and our mission is to look after and empower more of them so they can help more people, because when you're selling a business or buying a business, you deserve the best. And that's really my aspiration. We want to work with and help more professional business brokers in this country so that, business owners and the next generation of business owner do better.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have got enough scale now where you'd start to see patterns in terms of businesses selling, what's selling quicker, what's making them sell quicker, all that sort of stuff. And depending on what you read online and who you believe, the numbers get bandied around that, it's anywhere between 80% of businesses won't sell to 60% of businesses don't sell, and all that sort of stuff. You read that all over the place, and somewhere in the middle ground is probably true. But I guess at least from your perspective, I mean, you're going to see enough scale, you're going to see enough businesses go through where you can start tweaking those numbers, and you'll be able to see, a pattern of, okay, this is what's going to help businesses move, to a successful sale a little bit quicker and more often, which I think is a good thing for the market.
Yeah, I think it in some respects, it comes down to the fundamentals. It's matching the right people with the right opportunity. And when you listen to what a buyer actually wants, they don't say, I want this business. They go, I want something that fits this, that fits into my world, that fits into, my lifestyle, my budget and aspirations, and I feel like I could do something with. So when you match that person with an opportunity that fits that criteria, that can be life-changing for these people, right? So I think being able to make better matches right from the start facilitates smoother transitions and faster sales, but faster purchases, because buyers hate the current process or what they've had to put up with for the last 20 years. Because you're right, they're inquiring on things, they know nothing about it, and they get these emails backwards and forwards, and then they get some information, but it's emailed here, it gets caught in the spam box. You can never do it was broken, and we needed to do better as a profession, and that's something that I'm really proud of. We're transforming the way that people go about buying and selling businesses, and it's changing lives and making a huge difference, and that's something that I'm very pleased to be part of.
Cool. Well, I think that's a good place to wrap up this conversation. Jones, thank you so much for chatting with me. Where can people find out a bit more about you if they want to reach out? Are you on social medias? Do they just go straight through your website? Like, where's the best place to reach out and say hello?
Yeah, look, businesssales.com.au. Contact us page is a great one. If you want to connect with me personally, you might be a business broker thinking about what you're, upgrading your systems or whatnot, and just my LinkedIn profile, Ian Jones at businesssales.com.au. I think they're probably the easiest and best places to get hold of me. Love to chat. I've really appreciated your time today, Mark, and it's always a pleasure to chat with you. And there's always more things that we can chat about later, but it's been an absolute joy. So thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Thanks, Ian. We'll put all those links in the show notes.